Hey YouTube, Incendar here. A little while ago I did a processing power leveling video, and I briefly touched upon using cereals to make flour and dough for long-term AFK experience for processing. And more recently people have been asking me about flour and dough and if it's profitable, and I always say yeah, it sells instantly on the marketplace, any flour, any dough. So this is pretty good for any life skiller or a normal player that doesn't really get into the worker networks or life skills. This is really easy and you can AFK for a long time. Today I will do a batch and time it and see the actual profit results. So let me get that started first. So I'll just be taking wheat and grinding it here. And I will set a timer so we can see how well this works out. I also previously did a video, I'm doing a series on nodes for a playlist, and one of them was cooking, which shows where all the different nodes are for cereals, which is what we use to make flour. So you can see we got a couple different ones here: wheat, barley, potato, sweet potato, and corn. Any of these turn into flour, and then you can also turn that flour into dough. The really great thing about this whole thing is you'll notice these weigh 0.1, which means you can actually like stock your inventory with huge amounts of these and AFK this for long periods of time. So not only is it profitable for anybody really, but it's a pretty good way to AFK. The experience is pretty low on it for processing, but if you just let it run for hours, even on low weight, you'll be fine. Of course, if you don't want to watch the previous video about where cooking nodes are, it's really easy just to go to incendar.com, click on node resources, and then pick which of the ones you want. You can do corn, for example, and it'll show you Tuscany Farm. There's 2 nodes there, each one costs 1 contribution. So even if you're not really into life skilling, it's probably a good idea just to throw workers on all these different cereal nodes. And again, here's a list. If you throw workers on them, you can instantly sell any of these products, no matter how many you have. If you put up 50,000 wheat, it's going to sell. In fact, most of these are on a bid system most of the time now. So if you just want to throw workers on these and sell it outright, that's great. It is more profitable to process it into flour and then dough, and I'll get those results when I'm done here. I'm going to put this for about an hour so we can see how that works out. For cooks, you can actually see here how much stuff flour goes into. So if you're planning on getting into cooking or already in cooking, you already know about flour and dough, but you're going to be using that a lot. And you can pause this if you want to look at these recipes, but also dough is huge and used in a lot of very profitable items. And both of these are used hugely in Imperial, but also for the things I'm doing now, spamming out contribution points. You probably know about Essence of Liqueur and a few of the other ones you can spam very easily for long periods of time to pump out that milk and contribution. So people are always going to be looking for this stuff, and you're probably going to have to make it since you can't get most of it on the marketplace. So I'll let this run for an hour and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so 1 hour later, we have 1,246 flour, 496 wheat left, which means we used 504. You can see the prices on the marketplace. They'll always be the most. So here we go with a little spreadsheet I just typed up, nothing special. Cereal price, flour price. You start out at 237K and end up at 740K. So hourly profit is about 500K. Not the greatest, but since it doesn't weigh very much and you can just do this, as much weight as you have, it works. You get processing experience during the process. You can see the average proc of flour. That means like for every time I used a wheat, I got how many flour, which is 2.4722222, repeating of course. So this might be lower on anyone new to processing, which is even more reason why you should do stuff like this to get your processing up. You can hit that pretty quick. I think it's somewhere in professional or the beginning of artisan. It doesn't really change at all to master. You're always going to see that 2.5 area. So now let's see. What I'll do now is we can also test making this to dough. This does give more experience, more than double each time. So I will let this run and put a timer on it. We're going to be doing, well, I'll do maybe an hour here, and we will see what happens. I'll restart this timer, and I'll see you then. All right, so another hour went by just making dough from the flour. My Google stopwatch broke in the process, but luckily I had the time of the last video recording, so we can go with that. So let's see what happened here. Ended up with 1245 dough, and I have a spreadsheet with the data here. So we got 1245 dough, sells for 554 each, so almost 700k. The flour we went through 505 at 594. It's about 300k. So surprisingly here, the profit, which is I guess much less than actually just making flour, which is kind of interesting. Proc rate about the same 2.5 that you always see. So for a profit perspective, just stick with flour, I guess, or dough if you need the experience. That's the only real benefit. A little more experience, processing will go up higher. And so just to wrap up this whole thing, if you're a combat player, you might want to pick up all the cereal nodes or the grains and just maybe sell that or process it into flour to sell, or dough if you want more processing experience. If you're into life skill, especially cooking, you're going to want to keep everything you get from beer anyway, or essence of liqueur, or all the other stuff. Flour and dough are very important. And if you ever want to list any of the cereals, flour, or dough, they will always sell instantly. People need them desperately. I always try to look at the market to see what's up there and buy whatever is put up. So if somebody puts up even 50,000, yeah, no problem buying that. So that about wraps up the flour and dough. Subscribe for more